Hello Capricorn, welcome to your eclipse season horoscope for the next 6 months. Do not mind the transition. It is a new day when I'm recording this, but for you, there is a massive priority shifting happening for you in August, right? For the next 6 months. It will be building up, but it was concretized during the lunar eclipse in Aquarius in your second house, right? Think back to your life, right? Think back to your life. Think back 8 to 9 years of your life, right? From 2008 to 2009, which is when this particular Aquarian archetype was sort of concretized, right? And for you, this was happening in the area of your chart that has to do with your finances, that has to do with your self-worth, that has to do with what you value, what you give meaning to, what you give priority to. And this entire season that you are stepping into is about redefining what those values are, redefining what your priorities are. It's not just about the hustle and the grind, right? It's not just about detaching yourself from the equation in order to make a success out of whatever it is you're trying to create, right? It's not just about being disconnected from what you do create, what you put your heart into, right? What you invest your time, energy, and resources into, what you invest, who you are, how you invest yourself, Capricorn, is shifting in every area of your life, but especially in regards to your finances and your creative potential, right? And this is something that has been in the works for many years now, as Capricorn has been the archetype that has been most redefined, right? Most stretched, most dug under, most investigated, right? The most investigated sign right now in our zodiac is Capricorn, because Pluto is in your sign. And there's a lot of pressure on Capricorn to redefine success, redefine value, redefine self-worth. And it can no longer come through empty measures, right? We can no longer invest our soul or time or energy or resources into things that are empty of life, empty of organic potential, right? What we've been striving for has been somewhat hollow of true, authentic fulfillment. Right? We strive, first of all, as a society, as a collectivity, we strive constantly for more money, more material, financial gain, right? In the pursuit of some ephemeral ideal of what we believe is valuable in our life, right? But it's castles in the air, Capricorn. It's castles in the air, and you're realizing this. You're realizing that some part of you has been chasing a bubble, right? And it's not just you. It's shifting the entire paradigm. And you are leading the way through this evolution that is unfolding, as far as how we look at business, how we look at trusts, how we look at relationships in society, how we look at productizing our skills, our talents and abilities, right? How we look at commerce itself is all being under review, is all being investigated. Especially with Mercury retrograde in your 9th house as well. This is questioning your paradigms, questioning the paradigms that defined who you are up to this point, right? The logical, somewhat materially focused, tangibly focused, practical, pragmatic, right? Practical, fact-based knowledge that you inherited from the world that told you that this is what you must value. This this certain life path, this certain standard is what you need to uphold, is quote unquote what has brought you to your knees. What has brought you to your knees, I'm hearing and I'm seeing, right? But with this solar eclipse in Leo, this is instigating the domino effect of what it means to invest in yourself, Capricorn, investing in your heart. And what that looks like is where you do decide to invest your time and energy to this at this point now, within the next 6 months, and especially until November 2018, which is how long the North Node will be in Leo in your 8th house, right? It requires a tremendous amount of vulnerability within yourself. And this is courage at its utmost zenith, right? The courage to invest in things that don't make sense to the rest of the world. Believe in things that don't make sense to those who are more intellectually focused, factually based, sort of traditionally set in their rigid intellectual systems, right? If it cannot be seen with the eyes, with the physical tangible eyes, right? With the physical tangible senses, the 5 senses, if it cannot be perceived in this way, then it does not exist, right? It is meaningless, it is valueless. But you're questioning this entire foundation. You're questioning it all, and you are creating your own world. Creating your own world, Capricorn, and you are the sign. You are the sign of creating worlds, of the mastery of our material universe. And first of all, before we can master this material universe, of course, we must master our own material vessels. And this is what you teach us all to do. You lead the way, in a sense. But in order to lead the way, there is a process you must go through, a process of transparency, right? You can't put up the walls anymore. The defenses to your heart, right, that have been keeping you detached from what you create, keeping you detached from the grand scheme of things, right? It's like at this point, all you've been doing, not all Capricorns, but the archetype of Capricorn has been set in this way for a while now. And it has been the mindset that says, I have to do what it takes to survive, right? I have to do what it takes, even if it means detaching myself from the equation, even if it means looking the other way when I know something is perhaps even spiritually or morally improper. That questions the integrity of our soul space, right? And in a sense, for the next 6 months, this whole process is getting you back to life, right? Where you have been perhaps in a state of slumber, in a state of being somewhat at rest within yourself, being asleep, right? Being asleep at the wheel, sort of just letting things happen without you being involved in the process, right? While you get your fair share in the 2nd house, it's like, as long as I don't have to look at it, as long as I don't have to look at it and I'm getting what I put back from it, right? As long as I'm getting my return on investment, my ROI, then the result doesn't really matter because I'm not a part of it. I'm detaching myself, right? But in order to get the fulfillment that you're wanting, Capricorn, in order to build the life that you see, that you that you see by way of your intangible senses, right? The only way to get there is to be brave, is to be courageous, is to live for the light within your own heart and to invest in the light, even though you may not be able to perceive it tangibly, even though it may not make perhaps financial sense, even though it may or may not guarantee you an ROI. And I'm speaking in very business-like, very materially savvy sort of speak, because this is your specialty, right? You understand the laws of the game, even if you're not a business person. Not every Capricorn is a business person, right? But Capricorn itself is the archetype that knows the laws of the land, that knows the rules of the game, right? You know how to play the game, and you've been playing the game for very long, and that's the problem, right? Because as long as you do play the game, what you do create out of this game is never really your own. It never belonged to you, and it never does belong to you because it's not your game. And so what you're learning to do, Capricorn, is to create your own game. And that requires you to believe in your vision, believe in what you cannot tangibly see, because it's there. You know it is. And you can no longer hide, look the other way from it, right? Because it lives within you. It is somewhat a lighthouse within your own being. It's not something outside of you, a light that you see outside of you that you can choose to turn away from, right? You can't turn away from yourself. You always follow you. Your shadow is always attached. And where you have been asleep again is where this solar eclipse is bringing you back to life, right? Bringing you back to life, especially with Uranus at the bottom of your chart, retrograde, preparing for Uranus to come into Taurus next year in May. Uranus at the bottom of your chart is redefining everything that you are, Capricorn. Bringing resonance to the parts of you that are invisible. Where you have been inharmonic, the foundations are cracking. Where you have been in alignment with your soul identity, you can transcend the game itself, right? Your power is virtually unlimited in this respect, right? And from there, Uranus, if as long as you're tapping into your soul identity, right? When Uranus comes into Taurus in May of 2018, for you, this will be a very, not an easy process, but a very beneficial and free-flowing type of energy, because at this point you will be able to break out of the structure completely. You will be able to create your own vision, create your own world out of the vision, out of the castles in the sky you've been building, right? Because Taurus is the most tangible, materially focused sign in the zodiac, and it being in your fifth house is where you create, is where you express yourself. And Uranus moving into the sign is breaking everyone's boundaries, right? Or breaking everyone's foundation. And how that plays out is individual to everyone, depending on how they integrate the Aries archetype, the Uranus and Aries archetype within them before this happens. And with Saturn, your own ruling planet, going through your 12th house, moving through your 12th house, direct now, right? until it moves into your own sign by the end of this year. It's like you've been carrying this load on your back, right? But now's the time, as Saturn is direct now, that you are giving everything its proper place in your world, giving everything the proper energetic alignment in your life, right? This is a consciousness shift. This is a consciousness shift as you learn to control your own beliefs, control your own power, right? And not to give it away or to surrender it or to sacrifice it per se, but to align your soul identity, your life path with the divine plan, and the way to do that is to look your light right in the face, right? You cannot turn away from it. You cannot close your eyes to it. You cannot continue to go back to sleep, right? You cannot continue to go back to sleep because your shadow is always there. Your shadow is always following you wherever you go. And Jupiter's been at the top of your chart, right? Emphasizing this need to find your place, to find your purpose, to find your unique, special, somewhat social outlet, your creative outlet in this world. What you give to the collective, what you share with the rest of this world, right? Through your abilities to influence the collective, perhaps through a business project or a creative project or some form of creative outlet that you've been oscillating back and forth with, right? The direction, oscillating back and forth with the direction you should take your life. And with Jupiter moving into Scorpio by October, Jupiter moving into Scorpio with Saturn moving in your own sign, right? This combination is not only spiritually upgrading you and having you look for your tribe, right? Having you find your tribe, but this is, in a sense, the building of the new world that you have been receiving the downloads for, receiving the visions for, right? Where there has been perhaps divine intervention in your life. Now it is as if you are allowing whatever that divine plan is to incarnate through you, to become that plan, to become that vision. And you're doing things differently. You're rising out of the ashes. You're rebirthing yourself. And with that, you are able to find the people who support what it is you're trying to build, because you're moving into a very, very hardworking energy by the end of this year, right? Within the next 6 months, before we get to the next eclipse season, I feel like Capricorn will be working harder than ever because they'll be back online, right? With Saturn moving into your sign. Wherever you felt heavy or stuck or depressed or that the universe is constantly intervening on your life, right? You'll be able to move forward. You'll be able to build. You'll be able to concretize. You'll be able to stabilize and to manifest, right? Which is what you've been aiming to do. But for some reason, the universe has been stopping everything that you've been trying to build, that you've been trying to create, that you've been trying to move forward with, in order to get you to look at the bigger picture, in order to get you to look behind the veil, right? To look at the divine plan versus your own personal, somewhat material, perhaps somewhat even selfish agenda, right? The agendas of the human mind, which vary from individual to individual, right? The personal agendas that we carry with us in order to make it, in order to get to the top. But in order to get to the top, in order to get to your top specifically, right? It's not the top of the world per se, the outer world, because this is irrelevant, right? In a sense, but it's in order to get to the zenith of your potential. The zenith of your potential is what we're aiming for, Capricorn. So thank you very much for watching, Capricorn. I'll see you in your September forecast for the month, for the next month, right? Which will be coming out very soon. So be on the lookout for those videos, and I'll see you next time. Hello, Aquarius. Welcome to your August forecast, your late August forecast for the eclipse season for the next 6 months until we get to the next eclipse season in February, your own time of the month, right? Or time of the year for 2018, right? The next eclipse season, which will be in your sign. And for you, Aquarius, we start off with the lunar eclipse in your sign, right? Which is everything, Aquarius, that you are, everything that you have been, everything that has built you up to this point, right, is coming undone. And this goes back to the foundation that was built between the years of 2008, 2009 is when this particular archetype was concretized for you, right? It was set into motion. But everything perhaps that you even think you are is coming undone, right? Is somewhat being released, is somewhat being misted away. You are unraveling at the seams. And this is not necessarily a negative process, but a necessary one, right? Because Aquarius, with the South Node in your sign, and your ruling planet in Aries retrograde until next year, right? In your third house, I'm feeling for you that the world doesn't necessarily, for Aquarians, right? The world does not know who you are, Aquarius, right? The world gives you a certain definition. The world gives you a certain preconceived notion of who you are, right? A certain prescription for your identity. But truthfully, the world does not know what the Aquarian archetype actually is. And so it kind of, many astrologers kind of fumble with it, kind of make it up as they go, right? And this is because Aquarians, you don't even necessarily know who you are because you are so detached, from this world, right? It's almost as if you've been living in this corner of the universe where nobody or anything can access you, right? And so you're not necessarily associated with the ways of the world, with the ways of the people, with the ways of society, with the ways of civilization, right? Even though traditionally Aquarius is seen to rule society, right? To rule the collective mind, to rule groups of people, right? And in a certain sense, that's true. But that's just the layover of what you actually are, right? And this archetype is coming undone. And you are being exposed. You are exposing yourself to yourself as well as to other people. Because the only way to live passionately in this world, to live with your heart in this world, is to actually participate in this world, right? You can't be separated from it. You can't be in another dimension. You cannot be somewhere else. You have to be here. You have to be present. You have to be ultimately engaged in the activity and the participation of life and love, right? And this is what's been missing for Aquarius. They've not been here all the way. And this is the challenge, this is the lesson, and this is what is unfolding over the next 6 months for you. Nothing about you has been necessarily concrete, necessarily understood, and perhaps has even been rejected in a sense because you've kept this part of yourself detached from the world. You've kept this part of yourself disengaged from the energetic relationships of the world in every sector of your world, right? And with the solar eclipse in your opposite sign, Aquarius, this is requiring you to dive into life, to dive into love, unapologetically, and with full embrace of whatever comes. Of whatever comes your way, right? Of whatever people, whatever situations, whatever is attracted your way, Aquarius, whatever sees you on that other side is how you are seen, right? As you've been living in the dark, as you've been living somewhat away from it all, right? Somewhat where you've been absent is where the life and the light are aiming to bring you into fruition with yourself. Because you have so many ideas, Aquarius, with Uranus, your ruling planet, going through your third house, right? And your other ruling planet, Saturn, in your 11th, your own house, right? You have so many ideas, you have so many mental concepts, so many visions of the future, right? And in a sense, you are our prophet of the future. You are our foreseer into the future. But the only way to get this future into motion is when you are actively participating in its creation, right? And the only way to do this is to engage with life, to engage with love, to engage with the people in your life, to engage with the relationships in your life, to engage with everything around you, right? Everything and everyone. With the fullest essence of yourself, with the fullest ability to be present, to be here in the moment, as the Leo archetype likes to be, right? Versus in your head, versus in the past or the future. Even though you see all of the visions, even though you see sort of the path, everything and everyone and yourself will eventually rise into, right? We don't live for the future. We live for the present. And relationships now, with the solar eclipse in your opposite sign, setting into motion an entirely new, if you look at the big picture, it's an entirely new 18-year cycle for relationships in your life. How you deal with relationships, how you deal with the world, how you deal with other people is entirely, and how you're relating yourself as somewhat a facet of the whole, in that whole, right? How you engage, how you participate is shifting, is given a whole new meaning, a whole new light for the next 18 years. And with both of your ruling planets in trine to this solar eclipse, for you, this is transcendent potential, because even though you have this whole world hidden beneath the surface, right? Hidden somewhat, not underground per se, but away out of this universe, right? Detached from this world. The only way to bring it into light The only way to share it with others, because you can only live in your own world for so long, right? Eventually you want to get out there and share it with the people around you, because this is how people know you. This is how you are seen. And even though some part of you may or may not want to be seen, ultimately, Aquarius, the way to experience love on this planet is to share yourself with other people, right? And it's such a simple concept. It's such a simple concept for many of the signs to encounter, for many of the signs to understand to a certain degree, right? What love is, what the experience of sharing yourself is, the communion, and even though your sign rules community, for some reason, Aquarius, community has been the hardest thing for you to cultivate. And it comes down to how you participate, how present you actually are, how much of yourself that you're sharing with not only your one-on-one relationships, but the world in general, right? And in order for your vision to manifest, the world has to know it exists, Aquarius, and the only way it can know that it exists is if you share it, right? And this is a process I'm going through too, right? Because I am a double Aquarius. So in a sense, these videos that I'm sharing with you are just a stepping stone to sharing the visions I've cultivated over the years, right? And this is what we're all, as Aquarians, needing to step into, what archetype we're needing to step into. The unfiltered, unequivocal sharing of our heart, essence, and our light. And this is how we build love. This is how we build communion. This is how we are finally seen. Not waiting for other people to join us in our world, but to come to the world with our jugs full. Jugs, right? Yes. The Aquarian urn. Our urn's full. Okay, I'm so immature right now, but we come to the world with our urns full with water, right? To share with the rest of the world. And relationships teach you how to see yourself differently in relationship to your world. Seeing the parts of yourself that are not detached, right? That are present in the here and now. So the relationships coming into your life right now are teaching you how to live in your heart, how to live with the spark, a light, how to live with the flame kindled in the depths of your being, right? Because it's only as we are excited to be here that we are actually here, right? And only Aquarians will understand that. It's only when we're excited to be here, when something so engulfing captures our attention away from the world that we sort of live in our heads. And for Aquarius, this is emotions. This is emotional engagement in the rhythms of life and love, right? That captures our attention specifically as an Aquarius, because the emotional current that most human beings experience is not necessarily something that we are entirely familiar with, that the Aquarian archetype is entirely comfortable with, is entirely used to, right? And so in a sense, emotions somewhat stimulate the curiosity and the explorative, childlike aspect of Aquarius that brings it to life, right? That brings it here. The only way to get in Aquarius here is to engage their emotions, which is a paradox, right? Because Aquarius is known as the most unemotional sign, which is, of course, a lie, but I will not get into that right now. And that is being turned on its head as well. The entire orchestration of what Aquarius represents is being turned on its head because the South Node lunar eclipse is releasing, I'm feeling, thousands of years of buildup on what community is, what collective sort of love and communion is, what participation is, what individuality is in the sense of being a part of the collective, right? All of that is being rewarped, reevaluated. And you are getting ready, Aquarius, to have your ruling planet, your co-ruling planet, Saturn, enter your 12th house, right? Your 12th house of the subconscious, of the connection to the collective, right? Endings, beginnings, a whole new, you're entering somewhat of a chrysalis stage, Aquarius. And what's here is as the marker for this solar eclipse in August 21st, right? Your opposite sign. We still have Mercury retrograde in Virgo, and for you, this is in your 8th house. And this is digging up your fears. This is digging up your fears. And Saturn, it's just the prep zone for when Saturn comes into your 12th house, because you're going to need to face every fear, Aquarius. As you break out of the matrix with your mind, right? With Uranus in your 3rd house, as you break out of the systems of thought, the systems of living, the systems of overly logical formulaic processing of our world, right? As you break out of that whole entire system, which is very easy for you to do, and as you prepare for Uranus to come into Taurus in the bottom half of your chart, right, which will square over to your sign specifically, as well as all of the fixed signs will be affected in some way with Uranus coming into Taurus. But Uranus either breaks or makes, right? And the more you face your fears of engagement in your life, of being present, of being emotional, of being in love, perhaps, the more you face your shadow self, the more the vision will manifest for you. The more you expose yourself, the greater change that unfolds in your life, right? Because you're getting ready to uproot your entire foundation next year with your ruling sign, your ruling planet going into Taurus, the bottom half of your chart. This is uprooting everything that you are, uprooting everything that you thought you were, right? And creating an entirely new transcendent self that is not something you or anyone else has ever seen before, right? It will require a shift, a move in consciousness, and perhaps even locality, right? Physical locality. But again, it all comes back to the grand task, right? The grand task of being a part of this world, being a part of the community by being courageous enough to step into life, to step into love, to allow what you may consider, Aquarius, primitive or obsolete or overly emotional or selfish even, right? All of the things that you somewhat hide within yourself because you don't want to engage, you don't want to participate, you don't want to be a part of the story. The only way to make it your story, Aquarius, is for you to be here. You have to be here to be a part of it, right? You can't just, I don't want to be a part of this story, so you turn the other way. You just completely erase yourself. You erase yourself from the equation. Capricorn got a similar energy, but this is in reference to your presence on this planet, Aquarius. And as you get more and more presence, as it unfolds over the next 6 months until we come to your birthday period, your entire world shifts. That it turns on its head, because your entire world is reflective of you, of your heart, of how open and transparent your heart has become. So thank you very much for watching, Aquarius. I will see you pretty soon for your September forecasts. That is coming up for the next month, right? We're right on the brink of August now. So be on the lookout for those videos, and I will see you next time. Hello, Pisces. Welcome to your August forecast for the year of 2017. It is eclipse season. And so the events that transpire now will have an effect for up to 6 months until we come to February of 2018, which is when the next eclipse season begins. So Pisces, for you, I'm feeling you and your opposite sign are going through major shifts because the lunar eclipse is happening for you in your domicile houses, which means for Virgo, the lunar eclipse was happening in their 6th house, which is the house of Virgo, right? And for you, you are having the lunar eclipse happening in your 12th house, which is the house of Pisces. So major shifts in self, major shifts in self-identity, as these are the ruling houses, right? And for you in particular, Pisces, this is clearing out old baggage. This is clearing out everything that is karmic, everything that is tied to an old dimension, an old world, an old stream of consciousness, right? An old way of processing your reality, an old way of connecting to the universal mind, right? An old way of perceiving your role as far as being somewhat the savior, perhaps, in the divine plan, right? And the way you normally, the way you normally operate in this world as Virgo is shifting in that regard as well. You can watch the Virgo horoscope if you feel drawn to it, but Virgo in particular is coming out of this old way of living into the Virgoian archetype, which is, hustling, grinding, giving and serving, and constantly producing like a machine, in the sense that we typically see Virgo as the nitpicking, the server of the world, right? Cleaning up our messes that are originated in Pisces, right? And for you as well, you're coming out of this old role of being the somewhat translucent, ambivalent, dreamy, somewhat all over the place type of energy, right? Escape artist. An escape artist is a big one, right? The need to disappear, which is somewhat similar to what Aquarius is going through, but you are outliving this archetype, right? Outliving the need to escape, because you cannot escape anymore. Pisces, to be a part of this world, you have to show up. You have to show up day to day, right? You have to anchor yourself here. You can't disappear into space anymore, floating into outer space, kind of remaining ambivalent to your world, to the circumstances of your world, to your health, to your body, to anything, right? Everything that makes up a part of being a human being, right? You can't just let it bypass your consciousness, right? You can't remain. You can't be a ghost, right? You can't remain neutral, and you can't escape. And this is in no way saying that your world can't be any better, so just face it, right? No. There's a certain level of boldness that you're cultivating over the next 6 months, right? There's a certain level of tenacity and courage that you are cultivating. And the way that this is cultivated is through the day-to-day scheduling, the day-to-day maintenance of your character, right? This is character development, utmost character development for Pisces. And ultimately, all that this is requiring of you is for you to show up, right? For you to actually be there, for you to actually make the appointed time to show up at this time, this destination, this place, to meet up with these people, right? It's not complicated in the sense that we have to create this convoluted sort of formulaic plan, right? I'm not seeing that for you. I'm seeing that the simplest things for you, Pisces, are what anchors you here. Even if it's just changing your routine in the morning, changing your routine at night, changing the route you take on the way to work, right? Or changing the music you listen to, or changing how you exercise, or perhaps you've been exercising too much and you need to meditate. There is a significant change that's needed in your day-to-day life. And it doesn't have to be convoluted, and it doesn't have to be complex, but it needs to be bold. It needs to be of the essence of yourself, and it needs to tap into your heart, right? It needs to enliven you, in a sense, bring you to life where you have been sleeping, where you've been somewhat escaping from reality, where you have been somewhat dreamy, where you've been ambivalent or vague or blurry, right? This energy is requiring you to be strategic, to be on your game, to be alive, right? To be awoken, to be awake. And this is about committing to what needs to be done, because this is how you find yourself. You find yourself in the crevices in between normal everyday human experience, right? What can bypass someone else's mind, what can bypass someone else's thoughts, their consciousness, their emotions, right? For you, penetrates you very deeply. You see it all, right? You see what is not even necessarily able to be seen or be felt in the tangible, somewhat material, analytical way that we humans normally perceive reality, right? You have this gift. But you ground yourself, because this is the challenge for you now. Grounding yourself here requires you to focus on what keeps you here. Focus on what stimulates you, what gets your adrenaline pumping, right? What gets you feeling like your body is operating on the same level as your consciousness, as your soul frequency, right? Where you somewhat are used to being in your soul frequency, are used to living there, living in the spiritual realm, living in the blurry lines, right? Living outside of this realm, you're used to living there. But when you combine the two realms, when you combine the spiritual and the physical realm together, your power is limitless, right? You reach a new level of living. And this is where Uranus and Aries being retrograde now is trying to get you to transcend, is trying to get you to uphold to a new level, to a new standard, is through your second house, right? The house of the body, the house of your self-worth, the house of being grounded in this physical dimension, the house of your resources, the house of your creative abilities, your abilities to manifest, right? To manifest your visions, to manifest your dreams. And the way that this is transcended or transformed depends on your ability to be able to stick to the schedule, to stick to the plan. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to follow someone else's plan. You can create your own plan, but as long as you stick to it, as long as you commit to it, this is when you're really being able to see results, right? This is when reality actually starts to shift for you versus you just waiting for reality to shift, right? And Mercury being retrograde in Virgo during the solar eclipse in your 7th house, in your opposite sign, is changing patterns of relationship, changing ways of relating to the other, changing ways of perhaps the give and take within relationships, right? Where perhaps you've done things in a certain strategic, analytical, precise way before with your partners, with how you operate in the world, right? How you relate, where there's been a certain predictable pattern that you've been living out over and over again. We're breaking the pattern now. We're transcending the pattern now. We're looking at new angles of the pattern now. And this is having you set clear boundaries for yourself and your relationships. Healthy boundaries, because these relationships have to support whatever new schedule or routine or level of being in your body that you're trying to cultivate right now. The level of self-development, character development, right? These relationships have to be healthy enough to support the character development that you are aiming to live into. They have to support this new character that you're becoming. And so you're having a second look. You're having a second look at the dynamics of your relationships. And if it matches what you were trying to live into, right? And these relationships can take you far. They can take you far. You have Jupiter transiting your 8th house. And Jupiter will be moving into Scorpio, which will be moving into your 9th house of faraway hopes, wishes, and dreams, and faraway lands, foreign travel, foreign experiences, right? The collective, somewhat broad landscape of understanding that we come to of ourselves, of our path, of our destiny here on this planet, right? And relationships can take you there. Intimate relationships can take you there. Business partnerships can take you there. The level of trust and bonding that arises out of these relationships can take you far in your life. But the key is to have the healthy boundaries set in place, right? Have the healthy even the contracts set in place, right? Reviewing the contracts, reviewing the agreements that have been there. Perhaps even psychic agreements, untangling the karmic agreements, right? And creating new karma that supports this character development, that supports where you want to go in the long term. that supports what you want to create in the long term for yourself and for those you love, right? And as far as your creative potential, right? And we have Saturn for you moving in, as you've been questioning your purpose with Saturn at the top of your chart in Sagittarius, or moving out of the Saturn and Sagittarius story. By the end of this year, we will be coming into Saturn and Capricorn. And for you, this is happening in your 11th house. So it all comes down over the next 6 months. You will be looking heavily, investigating heavily the dynamics, the agreements in your relationships, in especially those that are already concretized, right? Especially those that are already somewhat a part of your life. New agreements will need to be made, right? Because it all comes down to who's in your life. Who's in your life to take you to the next level? Who's in your life to take you to these faraway lands and in places you've never been before, Pisces? And who's in your life is the key to getting ultimately what it is that you want. And so you need to be extra diligent about who you allow in and who you do not, right? The values need to be set, because the values are what take you there. The values of relating. And you're setting the new rules. You're setting the new standards for what communion is, what relating is, what relationships are, what love is. You're setting the new standard. But again, it comes down to you actually being here, you actually showing up, you actually doing the do, right? And committing to the here and now, committing to the body, committing to the nurturing of the temple, the chamber that is your body, right? The chamber that is your vessel, that is your vehicle, your instrument of light. Because it's not enough to just escape into the fantasies of what could be, what you want to be, what could happen, what is our somewhat overly idealistic view of being an enlightened soul, right? And the way to be an enlightened soul, Pisces, is to be a body first. So thank you very much for watching, Pisces. I will see you for your September forecast pretty soon, which because I will be doing the September forecasts as we are stepping into the next month, right? So be on the lookout for those videos, and I will see you all next month. Hello Aries, welcome to your August forecast for the year of 2017. This is the eclipse season that has just occurred with the nodal axis in Leo-Aquarius, right? And for you, Aries, you're breaking out of an old world. With the South Node lunar eclipse happening in Aquarius in your 11th house, which is the natural house of Aquarius, mind you, but what's happening in the world is a direct reflection of kind of what's happening with you, Aries, because your chart sort of represents the world stage. And as you break out of this old world that has somewhat detached you from your heart, right? Taken you away from your heart, taken your power away, right? Where the world has perhaps even rejected a part of you, right? The solar eclipse in Leo happening in your 5th house is stimulating the need to listen to your heart, to find the child within you, to allow it out of the playpen, to allow him or her out of the playpen, right? And this is the blossoming of the inner child. This is the blossoming of the inner warrior that has been hidden within you, right? And You are engineering an entirely new world of your own making by way of your creative potential, by way of tapping into the creative reserves of your inner child, of what has been repressed for many years now. Think back to the events in your life that transpired between the years of 2008 and 2009, right? Because this is when we had the North Node in Aquarius. This is when the archetype was set in the area of your life that has to do with the goals that you set into motion, that has to do with the people that you were surrounded by, right? The groups that you are a part of, the communities that you invested your time and energy into, right? What your particular role, your place, your legacy was in the grand scheme of things. It was set into motion between these years, right? And now with the lunar eclipse in Aquarius, this is stimulating those old archetypes again, but realizing that you can transcend them by way of tapping into your inner flame, by the reevaluating of what sets you on fire, what sets your passion, your fire, your Aries spark alive. And this is the warrior rising again. With Saturn in Sagittarius, in your 9th house, you have been exploring every facet of what you are, right? You've been exploring every facet of what you could be, who you could be, what you want to be, right? But ultimately it comes down to who you actually are and the expression of what you actually are. Who you dare to be, who you dare to become. You are the pioneer. You are the sign of the leader, the sign of the one who charges forth into the open abyss, right? Into the wild unknown, into all that is unexplored within ourselves and without ourselves, right? You are the one who pioneers, who blazes the trail. And this is what's happening for you in terms of your identity, right? In terms of your creative self-expression. You are blazing a new trail for us all. And this comes down to erasing everything in your world that has remnants of your former self, of this former shell of a self, right? What has taken your power away is regained again. And I feel that you're going through somewhat individual transmutation within the depths of your being, right? Because you are having Uranus in your own sign, retrograde, right? This is preparing you for the new life of whatever this creative transmutation will be. Whatever the final results, the manifestation of where you've developed yourself results in, right? What does it create ultimately in the long term? What do we become from here? Where do we go from here on out? What goes down, right? And this is the final, we will be having Uranus coming back during its retrograde phase into Aries in 2018, but this is the last time Uranus will actually be retrograding in Aries, right? This is the last time Uranus has retrograded in Aries. The next time it will retrograde in Taurus, right? In the house of whatever self-worth you're cultivating now, whatever identity you're cultivating now. And the limits are boundless for you right now who you could become, right? But it all comes down to who you dare to become, not who you could become by sheer rumination of what you could become, right? By sheer imagination of what you could become, but who you dare to become is ultimately the question, is ultimately what's on the line for you, Aries. who you dare to become, what you dare to step into, what you dare to cultivate, what you dare to bring into this world. And it all comes down to the expression of your core heart frequency in every area of your life, from relationships, from career to business, to the groups that you're in, to the memberships that you're a part of, to the world you inhabit at the time and space that this particular solar eclipse is stimulating, right? We don't just necessarily go from one world to the next just by the decision to, right? Evolution is concentric. Evolution is concentric in the sense that it happens, first of all, within, and it radiates in a circular, cyclical motion out into every outward sector of the space you inhabit, right? The environment. From, first of all, it reaches those close to you first, right? Then those who are acquainted to you, right? Then those communities that you're a part of. Then, of course, the entire world. Change happens concentrically. Change happens in waves. And this is the first wave, Aries, for you. And it all comes down to the definition, the redefinition of yourself, the transmutation of your potential. And Jupiter in Libra in your opposite sign is bringing in the relationships that stimulate this new character that you're becoming, right? That stimulate your potential, that stimulate whatever it is you could be, right? And with Jupiter coming into Scorpio later this year in October, relationships take you into unexplored territory, take you into the darkest, deepest, most intimate crevices of your being. This is where you will be growing for the next year. This is where whatever comes to light aims to bring you into greater alignment with yourself, Aries. Because then you become part of something bigger. It's not just about your personal fears, your personal wishes, your personal goals, your personal definition of self, but ultimately how you merge with the greater story. How your story and the greater story connect, collide, right? Collide as in war, because Aries, of course, rules war. But whatever you've been working on, what have you been working on as far as creative projects, perhaps that you've somewhat been keeping to yourself over the next 6 months, especially as Saturn moves into Capricorn, which will be at the top of your chart, right? Whatever you've been working on, it will gain supreme focus, supreme clarity, and it will require a supreme amount of dedication and commitment and discipline to be able to cultivate it, to be able to manifest it, right? And it will over time gain momentum. It will over time gain concrete solidarity and stability, security. What you're looking for is security, right? Through what you create. And Saturn at the top of your chart is giving you an entirely new identity in this world, right? By somewhat upgrading you in the sense that you become a newer, more aged, more mature version of who you are now, right? Through the expression of your heart, you have to allow whatever it is you express, whatever it is you create, whatever it is you launch, perhaps, or whatever it is you dive into as far as relationships, to somewhat gain momentum on its own, to build up over time, to traverse the mountain, right? It's not about just getting there. It's not about just the destination. It's about what is built in time. So thank you very much for watching, Aries. I will see you in your September forecast, which I will be recording and releasing very soon. So be on the lookout for those videos. I will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Hello, Taurus. Welcome to your August forecast for the year of 2017. This is the eclipse season, the first eclipse season with the North Node in Leo. And for you, this lunar eclipse in Aquarius, first round, right? First round of the eclipses, which will be speaking to the next 6 months, right? There's a pressure cooker going on within your consciousness right now, Taurus, and it's aiming to burn you into a diamond, to burn you into a higher state of consciousness. With Uranus, especially Uranus being Aquarius's ruling planet, right? Uranus in Aries retrograde in your 12th house. This is the fire that burns you from the inside out, right? This is the fire that is aiming to transcend you into this new world that is getting ready to cultivate in 2018, right? As Uranus moves into your sign, as you step into this new revolutionary period in your life, right? We're preparing for that. We're preparing for that by returning to the center of your divine self, right? By raising yourself into your divine self, by the definition of what this divine self even is for you. And it's a pressure cooker. And with Aquarius, the South Node in Aquarius happening for you in your 10th house, right? At the top of your chart, you are abandoning your outpost. You are releasing social expectations, perhaps the social preconceived notions of who the world thinks you are, right? What role you've been playing up to this point. Whatever role you've been playing up to this point is being transcended, is being released, is being given a new light, a new definition. And think back to the years of 2008, between 2008 to 2009, right? Because this is when this particular Aquarian archetype was set into motion. Whatever new role, whatever new status, whatever new position you were given in the society you live in, right? In the world you live in, whether this is just a personal setting or a transpersonal one, right? Or collective one. You are abandoning your outpost in regards to whatever social programming, whatever social expectations that were ingrained within your consciousness in this time, right? And this can come in the form of transcending expectations, right? As we come to the solar eclipse in Leo happening at the bottom half of your chart, happening in, for you, the deepest, most intimate unfolding of yourself, of what your individuality stands for, Taurus, what you are, the core base of your being, right? As you dig beneath the earth, you find the gold, you find the lava, you find the fire, you find the spark, right? And this is about you choosing happiness above all, above social possessions, above social status, above whatever's been promised to you, right? You're going beyond the promises, the social facades, the programming, the detached view of your world, right? The detached participation in your world, and you are ultimately choosing yourself in your own fulfillment, choosing yourself in your own soul, choosing yourself in your own happiness above all. And perhaps there's a greater focus on family for you. Perhaps there's a greater focus on the home, the physical locality that you dwell in, right? And finding your footing here, finding your foundation, setting the foundation, setting a new foundation perhaps, starting a family, building a new home, or moving, right? Perhaps because it is speaking to the next 9 years of your life, right? 9 to 18 years of whatever this foundation has been for you up to this point, where the foundation has been lacking. You're returning to the center. You're returning to home, right? After having somewhat disappeared into the social role, disappeared into the ethers, perhaps, disappeared into the programming, the expectations, where you've lost yourself in the world, Taurus, you're returning back home. And home lives within you. The gold that you've been seeking in the outer world lives within you. And this is you looking at your guiding light. What is your guiding light with Uranus in the 12th house? Uranus in the 12th house kind of adds this very unpredictable, very, very otherworldly type of role that it begins to play in your life, right? Everything up to this point, everything that has aimed to make you who you are up to this point. It's asking where we can transcend. Where you can transcend by focusing on the vision, right? By focusing on the long term, by focusing on what your place is in this universe, in this divine plan. Before Uranus comes into your own sign, right? And Jupiter will be coming into Scorpio by October of this year, as Saturn comes into Capricorn, which for you is happening in your 9th house. And Jupiter coming into Scorpio is your opposite sign, right? So these relationships are aiming to get you deeper into yourself, deeper into your purpose here, deeper into the home, deeper into the foundation, right? Before you can release this energy, this pressure that is building up within the very depths of your being, right? Before you can release it through the expression of the diamond within you, before you can launch off with this new potential, with Uranus coming into your sign by next year, right? Before you can do that, you have to look very deeply at your foundation. Look very deeply at the hidden, invisible spaces that you inhabit. What is your invisible guiding principle, right? What speaks to you? Not necessarily in this dimension, right? And relationships will be helping you dig beneath the surface with Jupiter coming into your opposite sign, in the sign of intimacy, of a somewhat alchemical transmutation and investigative underground peeling away the onion layers, right? Getting to the depths and the core bare rawness of your soul, right? And how it intermingles with the world, how it intermingles with your relationships, how it intermingles with your lover, right? With the collective. Everything's being prepared. The pathway is being paved for you. And ultimately, Taurus, you're coming deeper, deeper, deeper into yourself before whatever you are blows up right before our eyes as Uranus is coming into your sign, right? So thank you very much for watching, Taurus. I hope you have a wonderful next 6 months. I will see you for your September forecast, which will be coming out very soon, as I will be releasing these videos. So be on the lookout for that, and I will see you next time. Hello, Gemini. Welcome to your August forecast for the year of 2017. This is the eclipse season, which means what happens now will be marking the time span between now and February of 2018, the next 6 months, right? As this is an entirely new chapter for you. So for you, Gemini, you are having the South Node lunar eclipse happening for you in Aquarius in your 9th house. And this is paradigm shifting your whole worldview, right? Paradigm shifting everything that has made up your world, everything that every aspect of thought that has contributed to the creation of your world, right? Because we perceive our world through our perception, through filtering of our subjective perception, right? Of our world. This is the filter that sort of mirages over what is actually there. And Gemini, it's been a roller coaster for you, a roller coaster of perception, right? Because the facts and the fictions have been blurred, right? The veil and the reality have been intermingled, right, for you. And your entire foundation of how you see yourself in your world and how you see your world in general is being questioned. And it comes down to asking yourself, this is really who you are, right? Is this who I really am? Am I just meant to play this particular role in my life, right? And all of that's being thrown out of the window, right? Because logic tells you with Aquarius being ruling, somewhat the social programming that instills the need for intellectual linear thinking above all, right? That sets the standard for that creates the knots of thought that lead to our downfall, right? This is the negative archetype of Aquarius. And you're realizing with the solar eclipse happening for you in your domicile house, which is the 3rd house. Gemini rules the 3rd house, right? You're realizing, Gemini, that you can be everything and you can be nothing all at once. And it all comes down to finding your voice. It all comes down to finding your own perception, what you personally believe to be true, what your personal truth is, right? The truth for you lies in living, lies in simply being, lies in simply getting into the messiness of whatever this human experience is, right? Versus sitting on your high horse or sitting in your white tower and witnessing the events around you and somewhat creating a catalog of experiences and creating a database for what something means, what you are. Okay, so you've had this particular experience in your life, so therefore this equates whatever formulaic equations add up, right, to make you this particular person, right? This is logically who you should be. This is logically what your world should look like. But all of that is being thrown out the window because you can't afford to look at your world from the logical point of view anymore. This has been entrapping you. And Gemini, you were not born to be entrapped. You were not born to be enclosed in a certain space, in a certain limiting behavior pattern, and a limiting worldview, and a limiting perception of yourself, right? You can be everything. You are everything. Because your mind goes everywhere, right? You are the mutable air sign of the zodiac. And for you, ultimately, this is the requirement of needing a new method for perceiving and communicating who you are. So, especially with Mercury being retrograde in Virgo, for you, this is happening in the bottom half of your chart in the 4th house, and everything that you are is coming undone, right? And I got a similar energy for Aquarius, but for you, this is in regards to the perception of yourself, in regards to what your voice is, how you communicate with those around you. And you're needing to cultivate lateral thinking, right? For you, ultimately, these next 6 months is going to require you to improvise, is going to require you to do things not in the logical way, but allowing experiences to unfold as they naturally will, right? By the communication of what your voice actually is, what your personal truth is with the world around you, right? As you transcend whatever belief systems have somewhat encased you. This is combining every element of the self into one, right? Because you're not this particular characteristic or that. You're both characteristics. You're both polarizations. You're both polarizing forces, right? And the integration of these two is what sets you free. And we have a Saturn for you within the next 6 months moving into Capricorn, which is your 8th house, and we have Jupiter moving into Scorpio, which is your 6th house. And Gemini, you are coming to a point in your life where you're needing to grind it out. You're needing to, as all the fears come to the surface, as Saturn being in your 8th house sort of makes all the fears of being caged in, being limited, being traditional, being boring, being repressed, right? Suppressed, chained, are met face to face, right? Through yourself or through the other, right? This could be the projection onto the other. As you see everyone around you being somewhat of a, you can see everyone around you being a negative influence. You can see everyone being limiting. You can see everyone limiting your potential by labeling you, by cataloging you, by giving you a certain prescribed, preconceived notion of who you are, right? And Uranus being in your 11th house, right, retrograde, everyone's kind of looking at Gemini, the Gemini archetype, right, as being somewhat on loose ground, somewhat on edge, somewhat even perhaps crazy, you know, because, or Gemini can see other people being the crazy ones, being the ones who are somewhat disturbing their foundation. It can play out in multiple different ways. Sucker, no. But Gemini, the Gemini archetype is going through a massive point in their life where they are needing to become the most grounded sign of the zodiac at this point. Over the next 6 months, somehow, one way or another, Gemini will be the ones that are tethering us, that are keeping us here, right? And this is somewhat paradoxical, somewhat revolutionary, but as Geminis learn to communicate better, as Geminis learn to grind it out, right, to face their fears with Jupiter coming into Scorpio in your 6th house, right, you're going to need to get to work. You're going to need to put your mouth to the test, right? where you've been wanting to cultivate a greater degree of creative sharing of yourself, sharing of your voice, sharing of what your perception, what your truth is. Sokka, no. It's about coming to the test, right? It's about following the motions of what personal truth you're actually communicating. So you have to live into what you're saying. You have to walk your talk, right? Geminis will be tested with that very heavily over the next 6 months and as well until November 2018, because this is how long the North Node will be in Leo in this particular area of your chart for you, which is your ruling house, right? Gemini rules the 3rd house. And so even though you are everything, Gemini, even though you see all the different facets of your character, all the different facets, all the different adventures that live within your own mind, right? With Saturn right now transiting your 7th house, you're seeing all the different paths, all the different destinations, all the different adventures you could take in your life. Ultimately, it comes down to combining all of the elements of your character into one so that you are a centered, integrated individual. And from there, being able to walk your talk, right? To live into what you already see, what you already know to be true. You live into it. You communicate it. And from there, Gemini is able to achieve a level of intimacy with the rest of the world that it has not been able to cultivate, right? As they've been questioning their own identity, questioning their place, questioning their role, questioning the paradigms that they've lived under, breaking out of whatever is repressed, their individual truth, right? As they break out of that and come back with the truth, with their truth, the world changes around them. The world changes around you, Gemini. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you for your September forecast, which the videos will be coming out soon, as we are just on the edge of August right now. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful next 6 months until the next eclipse period. I'll see you next time. Hello, Cancer. Welcome to your August forecast for the year of 2017. We are at the eclipse season, the first eclipse season with the nodes in Aquarius and Leo. And this eclipse season is speaking in particular to the next 6 months until we get to the next eclipse cycle in February of 2018. So for you, Cancer, with the lunar eclipse in Aquarius happening in your 8th house, this is the release of old trusts, old bonds, old regulations I'm feeling coming undone. Whatever sentiments have held you in this isolated prison I'm seeing, whatever brought comfort to you, perhaps in back in the past, right? Think back to the years between the years of 2008, 2009, which is when this particular Aquarian archetype that we are releasing now was initiated, right? And this is in regards to your sentiments, regards to your trust, regards to your bonds, perhaps the binding of resources between you and another or a collective, right? Old sentiments that brought you comfort, but ultimately took you away from yourself, right? Ultimately took you away from your own independence. And your independence is what you're cultivating right now, Cancer, as we are having the solar eclipse in Leo in your 2nd house. And yourself The essence of yourself needs to be rooted. It needs to be rooted in the third dimension, right? And what this means is you are reclaiming your creative power, reclaiming where you have perhaps given yourself away, where perhaps you've sacrificed your own happiness for the sake of the sentiment, for the sake of comfortability, for the sake of getting along with the other, right? For the sake of fitting in, perhaps for the sake of being comfortable, for the sake of being secure, right? Security has been the number one focus for you, but you're transcending ideals of security. You're transcending and redefining what security even means for you, because the ultimate security that you could ever cultivate is within yourself, is within your own potential, is within your own creative power, Cancer, is within your own independence, is within your own ability to manifest. And your ability to manifest depends on what you claim to be your own. What you claim to be your own by sheer willpower and belief. Because Cancer, your ability to manifest depends on you believing in your ability to manifest, right? You're having Uranus at the top of your chart right now, retrograde, so breaking out of the comfortable, somewhat nest egg that you've been in, breaking out of the old roles that you've played, the old stigmas and systems that you've been living under, right, that have provided this sort of net that holds you above ground, but is ultimately, Cancer, you're going to need to fall through the net. You're going to need to jump out of the net, out of the nest, right? And find your wings. What are your wings made of is the question I'm hearing for you, and is the mantra that will be rung throughout the next 6 months, and especially throughout the next year until November of 2018, which is how long the nodes will be in Leo-Aquarius happening for you in your 2nd and 8th house, right? Independence of character, stability of character, security within yourself, right? What is your sense of value? What is your sense of self-esteem? Where is your confidence level, right? Where do you invest? Where do you invest? What do you invest your value into? What do you give prioritization? Capricorn got a similar energy, but for you, this is personal, very personal, right? And with Mercury being retrograde in Virgo in your 3rd house, this is lots of rethinking of how to communicate clearly, how to communicate your needs and wants and desires clearly, right? As you authenticate your desires, as you validate yourself, as you give greater emphasis to the substantiality of whatever your frequency is, whatever your core frequency is, whatever your values are, as you prioritize your own values above and beyond all, right? As you prioritize your own independence, your own creative potential above and beyond all, right? And you share it, you express it with others so that they may support this new development of self, that they may support the new foundation that you're creating, the new level of independence that you're cultivating, right? Versus leaning on perhaps the other, leaning on the system, leaning on whatever has comforted you, but yet kept you imprisoned, right? And Saturn being in your 6th house right now in Sagittarius, you've been looking at every angle, you've been looking at every path to reclaim yourself, to reclaim your independence. You've sifted through all the options. And by the time we get to the end of the year with Saturn moving into Capricorn, this is entering a very, very serious relationship time. Capricorn being the most serious sign of the zodiac, but as well, Saturn being its home planet, right? Moving into your opposite sign, moving into the space that has to do with relationships and relating to the other, to the rest of the world, to society even. and where you're breaking out of your reliance on the relationship, your reliance on the system, your reliance on the other, your reliance on the foundation, on the stability itself. Both halves of the equation are able to meet in the middle, right? And we have Jupiter coming into Scorpio as well, which is your 5th house, Cancer. And again, this is emphasizing your heart. This is emphasizing your value. This is emphasizing what you want to create independently. What sets you on fire, and where you can perhaps merge with other people who have cultivated the same desires, have cultivated the same values. And as you meet in the middle, of Saturn and your opposite sign, right? As you meet as two wholes, you're able to create some very, very profound shifts, profound waves in your life, right? This is where your ultimate ability to manifest makes itself concrete. Through your relationships, through those you partner with, through the meeting of yourself with the rest of the world as an independent individual versus one who is relying on whatever security you're looking to cultivate from the outside world. What if that net wasn't there? What if that net wasn't there, right? With the net not being there, you relate to the world in an entirely different way. You relate to the world as a self-sufficient, independent, creative-driven individual. And in a sense, this inspires and attracts those who provide the stability that you've been looking for all along, right? Those who are able to get very deep with you. Those that are able to bring you closer to your heart. Those who are able to help you cultivate a greater level and degree of self-confidence, of self-value, of self-stability even, right? As they help you tap into whatever passionate force lives within you. For the next 6 months, Cancer, as you cultivate a greater degree of independence within yourself and creative potential and self-sufficiency, the ultimate questions for you, especially by the end of the year, which will be when Saturn comes into Capricorn and Jupiter comes into Scorpio, right? The energy will shift dramatically. That'll be the midpoint in between these two eclipse seasons, right? The question for you will be on which relationships feed whatever it is you're cultivating within yourself, whatever new identity, and which ones do not, right? And ultimately, this comes back to where you develop yourself. What is the zenith of your self-development, right? Where you can ultimately grow, where you can ultimately transcend, where you can ultimately expand your heart as you live into yourself, as you substantiate your heart, as you give form and consolidation and a sense of concretization to your heart frequency by simply believing in it, by simply taking it for what it is, right? By simply proclaiming your value, proclaiming your worth, proclaiming your vision, proclaiming what you need, proclaiming what you want, and communicating it to the rest of the world, right? So thank you very much for watching, Cancer. I hope you all have a wonderful next 6 months until we arrive to the next eclipse season, which I will be back to discuss. And I will see you in your September forecast, which will be coming out very soon. So again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.